Hey, this is Matterall again, coming from Vegas. I'm here with CCP Rise, a developer for the game, senior developer actually. How you doing?
Doing good.
All right. So let's. What are you going to talk about? Because you have a big presentation tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Yeah, I am going to talk about a new team that I am a part of that is going to be really focused on kind of updates for veterans and core gameplay stuff, which is really exciting. It's like the thing that I'm most interested in doing, and we have a lot of kind of big plans. And so I'm going to talk tomorrow about how that team's going to work, what sort of release cadence, and what sort of strategy we're going to have for the work we do, and then talk about a bunch of areas that we're hoping to hit in kind of the first set of releases we're doing.
So is there a name for that team?
It's called Team Talos.
Oh, wow. Talos. So you talked about cadence. You're going to be putting out stuff for veterans specifically or generally. And what's the cadence going to be?
Well, we're going to do every 2 weeks until the end of the year, at least. And then we're basically going to check in then and see if that feels like a good pace. Since we haven't done, right now, the most often we're able to do kind of major releases is about every month and a half, every month, something like that. So we are going to check in after that time and see if we can keep that pace up, or if it feels bad to players because it's just too much coming at them or whatever. So we'll make an adjustment after that. But I think there's a good chance that that's about the range that we'll end up wanting to hit.
So you're going to announce some of those changes tomorrow, I imagine?
Yeah.
Some of the first changes you're going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to hint at them tonight at the keynote, and then I'll go into a little more detail tomorrow during my presentation.
Little teaser, huh?
Yeah. We're gonna give titles for some of the updates and have some pictures, but not say what's in them exactly. And then tomorrow we can go into a bit more detail.
So this seems like a little bit kind of like the Chaos era in that you're going to do things and see how it feels.
Definitely. I think from Chaos era, we're right now at least very excited about making bigger changes and then being able to react flexibly. Like, look at what happens. We have so much awesome stuff in place now for analyzing the effects of change much more quickly than we have in the past. And so we just want to be in a position to leverage that. And this team, the idea is be able to move fast enough that when we do something really quickly, we can look at results, make adjustments, move forward without having to go into a long, I know people joke about ship getting an update, which means it won't for another 3 years or something like that. And we really want to work on that, especially because Chaos Era showed us that there's really big value in that. So
yeah. So you mentioned you have better tools to measure reactions of changes?
Yeah, we have the work that our analytics team, our security and botting team, and our research team, like CCP Ghost and kind of his little task force, they're all doing a lot to just give way better resolution on the actual effects. A good example is looking at blackout effects in the past, or even going into blackout. We're talking about faucet, just how much ISK is coming into the game. But now, because of looking at a lot more specific pieces of the results, we're talking about things like income inequality and wealth distribution, and how people playing under an umbrella are affected differently than people who are playing on their own. And all of that is backed up by looking at actual data. You'll see a ton of that from Larrikin in his talk on Sunday. It's amazing how much detail we're getting in a lot of these areas now compared to the last few years.
Yeah, that's CCP Larkin. He'll be doing a talk on EVE economy, but I think it's actually changed now to botting and income or something.
And data, actually.
Botting and data.
Because he's also got a bunch of pretty awesome data just on people coming to Vegas, and it's just a whole bunch of graphs. It's really all super fun stuff.
We love graphs.
Yeah, his are animated too. They're very, very pretty. He's taken sort of CCP Quant's banner and run with it.
Awesome. So what about that cadence thing? Because we've heard that before with Chaos.
Yeah.
If we do something, if we're doing our job right, Hilmar said, we'll be making a change once a week. There's been some criticism about that. It doesn't seem like it's happened once a week. How do you respond to that?
Well, what we learned after the really fast cadence during Chaos Era was that we weren't set up to sustain it. The structure of our teams and our release processes just couldn't handle actually following up on that without derailing a lot of other things. We could make it work, but it came at a really big cost. So we have taken sort of a month off. September, we were figuring out a way to build a structure where we could support it. And then the other big difference between kind of the past and when we promised cadence is that now we're going to intentionally keep the commitments low. So rather than saying it'll be every 2 weeks and you're going to get battleships this week and then cruisers next week and then assault frigates after that, we're just going to say you're getting battleships this week. So that when it comes time to start doing stuff for 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, we're not locked into a plan that we can't sustain. So we're hoping that gives us a lot more room to actually follow up, focus on the cadence more. If we're low on time or someone's on vacation, we do smaller release, and that's fine because we're not committed to something that doesn't make sense.
Right. Big commitments in the past have burned you guys like shield slaves. What happened there?
I mean, that's the thing is stuff changes. We were in a position earlier in this year where we were putting together a big package of balance updates around the same time as the carrier changes and fighter application changes, that stuff. And shield slaves, which we've wanted to get in for a long time, seemed like a great fit for that release. And so we went out and said, hey, in 2 months, you're going to get shield slaves. And then 5.0, the team that was going to implement them, got their mission completely rearranged. They ended up being part of the big NPE work that's going on. They're working on login incentives and some other work like that, and it got them very busy, and so then they couldn't follow up. And that's the problem we've always run into, is that the intention originally was there, but then priorities change. And so that's what we want to do differently on Team Talos, is leave open, intentionally leave space for us to shift for priorities as they change.
Sounds like a very responsive way to design a game that seems to be kind of a living game anyway. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's where, I think more and more over years we've tried to learn how to face the fact that we cannot anticipate what we're going to need to do. I know people right now really want to hear about a roadmap and a plan, and I think what we're trying to figure out is how do we plan, understanding that things are going to be different and we're going to want to accomplish different stuff 6 months from now than we do this second. And I think that's part of what this team is about, and what I'm going to be talking about is just trying to pivot towards supporting, adapting to the living universe, basically.
So that's something that players talk about too. Does CCP understand how we play the game? And what do you think the major concerns are that players have these days?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I'm going to talk about, in my talk, I'm going to talk about structures and time zone tanking, about wormholes, about faction warfare. There's a bunch of these areas that we haven't been able to give enough attention because our structure hasn't allowed us to without committing to a really big project. And we haven't had a priority to, for instance, rework faction warfare, even though we'd love to. It's just been too far down the sort of ladder of things that we want to do. But that means it ends up sitting without us talking about it for a long time. Even though we've done that, we do pay attention to those areas. We really want to make changes, and so that's a big part of what we're hoping to do. The other thing, actually, I think contributes to that is players' idea of how we play the game, and we're trying to make some changes to that too, to open it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We've been talking a lot since the last CSM Summit about ways we can make it easier for devs to be involved, especially in bigger groups, because that's really hard to do right now. And we can do it some, but we're going to probably be adjusting some of the policies around that so that it's way more flexible, and so we can go and join whatever big whether it's Sigzuki's big wormhole.
Would you do it in disguise, or would you?
I mean, we'll see. There's opinions all across the board, from doing it completely openly to doing it more disguised, but right now it's very binary. We're not allowed for anyone to know a character that belongs to a dev, and we're talking about at least making it more okay for some people to know you're a dev. So if some people recognize my voice, or I play with a small group who happens to know I'm a dev, as long as I'm not doing anything that's hurting the integrity of the game, I'm not benefiting those people with inside info.
But you're a pretty good player, so I mean, you get a lot of kill mails for a certain side,
I
right?
can benefit them by playing legitimately. If I'm just good at running fleets, that's fine. But if
can't you do a handicapped or something
giving them, if I'm checking on our enemies using our DB access or something like that, it's really bad news. And that's the thing, we have to be really careful because there's so many ways we can really hurt the integrity of the sandbox, and we don't want to do that. But it would be great for us to have more options to get involved in big groups. So we're trying to do that too.
All right, cool. So your talk is tomorrow at 10 a.m. You're pretty nervous and excited about it now.
Yeah, extremely anxious, I'd say, yeah.
How are you going to feel when it's over?
A lot better. I'm going to go to the party and feel much better.
All right. Thanks a lot, CCP Rise. That's CCP Rise. He's going to have a talk tomorrow on, what's it called?
It's called Eve Core Gameplay Update, which is about the most loaded and terrible title we could have possibly come up with.
Expectations, anyone?
Exactly.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rise.